Hey there! Have you ever made this great change in your source code that actually turned out to be not that great and you had to undo it? Yeah, that happens, right? But how to do this in Git? Well, that's the topic for today, so let's get started. Alright, so let's talk about how to undo stuff in Git. And as always, it depends. It depends on where you are, what you already did. And let me show you some options. So let's jump into VS Code, where I have my Git project already opened. And let's start with synchronizing my master branch. So I'm in my local master branch, and I would like to pull changes from the remote repo. And you should remember that pull, it simply fetches changes from the remote repo and then merges them to your current branch. So it simply means that right now my master branch contains all the changes that the remote master branch has. Cool. And this is important because right now I would like to create a brand new branch from master, and I want it to contain all the changes. So let's create a new branch, create a branch from master, and let's call it feature undoing stuff. All right. And let's go with some scenarios. So the first one would be the simplest one. So let's say that you as a developer, you are making changes in your code base and you updated those two files. So let's do this. So that's the first file. Some change in the first file, scenario 1. Let me save this. And let's do a similar change in the other file. Another change in the first, actually in the second file. All right. So right now, those two files have been modified. They are not yet committed to the repo. And if we go to source control tab, you can see that yes, Git detected that those two files have been changed. And it asks us if we would like to commit them. But let's say that, actually the changes from the second file are bad. We don't want to commit them. And if we click on the file from the source control tab, we can see exactly the comparison between the previous version of the file and the changes we just did. We would commit if we do this. And in this case, we can see that we added those two lines. And let's say that we can see that there is a bug in this file, and we don't want to commit this. We want to undo everything we did in the context of this specific file. And fortunately, in VS Code, it is super easy. In source control tab, we've got this discard changes option. And if we click on this in context of specific file, it will simply undo all the stuff we did for this file and for this file only. It will leave other files untouched. But let's say that those changes from the second file are bad. We would like to undo them. So yes, please. And what happened is that in our user2 file that I have opened right now, those changes are gone. They were reverted. Also, you can see on the list of changes that the second file is no longer listed because, well, we undid those changes. And that's how easy it is to undo changes that were not yet committed. And actually here you could use any built-in functionality in your text editor, like Ctrl-Z, to go back one by one with the changes. In VS Code, we've got this discard changes option that allows us to discard everything in context of a specific file. As simple as that. But in real life, it's usually more complex than this. But let's commit this change. So scenario 1, initial commit. Yes, please commit this. All right. And now, if we go into Git graph history, you will see that yes, that's our branch, feature undoing stuff. It contains this scenario 1 initial commit. It points to this commit actually. And it was created based from our master branch. So everything looks fine so far. Cool. But what if we decide that actually those changes that we just committed, they are bad? We would like to undo them, but they are already committed to the repo. So how to do this? So first, let's see what we actually did in context of this commit. So let me click on it. And we can see, thanks to Git graph, that we actually modified this user1 file. And if I click on it, I will see that yes, those 2 lines were added to the file. And the simplest option, and actually to be honest, the approach I used a lot in the past, would be to create another commit manually that would simply revert those changes, because it is so small change, only 2 lines, and we can see exactly what has changed, right? So let me go to user1 file, and we know that we would like to remove those 2 files. 2 lines, not files. So let me manually remove them. Let's save the file and let's commit them. Manual undo of file 1. And let's commit this. Yes, please. And take a note how our history looks like. So obviously we've got this new commit in the history. If we click on it, we can see that yes, it indeed removed those 2 lines. And if we compare changes between the current state of our branch with our master branch, there should be no changes, right? Because we reverted everything. And the nice thing about the Git graph is that it allows us to compare visually changes between any 2 commits. So we have already the first commit selected. And let's click the other commit with control. So the master commit, the master branch, right? And the Git graph is displaying changes between those 2 commits. And right now, there are no differences because, well, we undid manually everything that was done in the middle. All right, cool. This approach works. But what if instead of a single file, we would have to revert changes from 20 files? Or what if instead of just 2 lines of code, we would have to modify hundreds of lines? Doing this manually, like I did a few minutes ago, is error prone. It's complex. And it might introduce another bugs if you don't do this correctly. So it would be great if Git had an option to do this automatically, to automatically undo a specific commit. And yes, there is this option. It is called revert. So let me show you how to use it. So actually, let's go back to our user1 file and let's create yet another commit, yet another change that you would like to undo. Another change for scenario 2, I believe. Let's call it this way. And let's add a scenario 2 commit message. And let's commit this. All right. And in the Git graph history, we can see this new commit that we would like to revert, but this time not manually like we did previously, but automatically. Imagine that this commit contains changes in hundreds lines of code. So to make it work, let me right click on this commit in Git graph, and I really like this extension, and then select revert option. And let's confirm that yes, we want to revert this specific commit, the one that we just right clicked on. Yes, please. And please note what happened. Automatically, a new commit was created with a name of a revert and the commit message of the original commit that was just reverted. And it was done manually. If we click on this commit, we can see that changes were made in this user1 file. And if I go into details, I can see that yes, this commit removed those 3 lines that were added in the original commit. And just to make sure, let me compare state between the current version of our branch and master, and there should be no differences. Yeah, no differences. Great. So basically what revert does is that it checks what has been done in the original commit that you would like to revert, and it creates a brand new commit that reverts all the changes from the original commit, right? And it does it automatically. So there is no risk that you will forget about some change, which is super cool. And what is also nice that it is just a regular commit. There is nothing special about it. It is visible in the history. We could achieve the same result if we did this manually, right? Provided that we wouldn't forget about any change. But apart from that, just a regular commit, which is super cool. Alright, but so far what we did was to revert only the latest commit. What if we would like to undo some commit from the past? Is it possible? Let's verify. Let's test this. So let's say we've got this manual undo file commit, which is here, and we are here at this moment. And we would like to undo this commit selectively, right? Is it possible? Let's try it. So let me right click on this and let's use revert option and yes, please. And it did, right? It created yet another commit with revert name and the name of the original commit. And if we click on the details, what it did, well, it reverted the manual revert, which means that it brought back those original changes. It might sound a little bit complex, but it is just creating an opposite commit, which negates all the changes from the original commit. So that's how it works. And it simply means that with revert, we can undo the stuff from the past, not only the latest version. Fine. Now, the thing is that if we take a look at the history of our branch, we might see a lot of those revert commits. So the history might get ugly in time, and maybe we would like to make it look better. Or maybe not, depends on what you like to do, what you have to do, or what you would like to have in your Git history. Would like to have every change recorded or not? So there is yet another option we could use that would hide all those commit messages. And the other option is reset, not revert, but reset. So how does it work? So you should remember that all those commits are our save points, and we can go back to any point in time if we would like to. And what reset does, not revert, but reset, it simply moves your current branch, in our case it would be this branch, to a specific commit in the past. For example, let's say that we would like to go back to this point in time. So our branch would point to this commit. And you should remember that branch is just a pointer to the specific commit. And if we do this, it would simply mean that all those changes that were made after the selected commit would be gone, would be not available, would be not visible in our branch, right? Very simple, very elegant way of going back in the history. All right, so let's make some additional commits, maybe in the other file this time. So the first change in file 2. Let me save this. And let's make a commit, like so. And let's make yet another change, the other change in file 2. And let me commit this. All right. So our history is as follows. We've got those two branches, two commits that we just added. And our branch points to this commit. Actually, let me add another one. Third change. Just to have it a little bit nicer. I mean the history. So let me commit this. All right. So we've got those 3 commits that we just did. And our branch points to this commit. And let's say that we are not happy with those 2 last commits. And instead of reverting them one by one, what we would like to do would be to simply go back in time and set our branch to this particular commit. So the latest 2 will not be visible. So let's click on this specific commit to which we want to go back. And that's the difference between reset and revert, because in revert, we click on the commit we want to undo, and in reset, we click on a commit to which we want to go back. So let me go to this commit and let's use a reset current branch to this commit option. And we got this drop down with some options. Basically, VS Code and the Git is asking us, all right, what type of reset we want to do. A soft, mixed, or hard? But hold on, what are those options? So let's think about it for a second. In all of those options, what Git would do would be to update the branch to point to the selected commit. So in Git history, those newer changes will not be visible. That's clear. And that's the behavior in all of those options. But then the question is, all right, but what to do with the changes that you already have in your working directory, in your working tree? What to do with changes in index? And let me explain it. All right, but what is this working directory? So working directory is this, your files that you're working on. So let's say that you would like to reset your branch to this state, so those changes would be gone, but actually you made changes in 20 files here, and you would like to keep those changes locally, just not yet committed to the repo. So you would be able to make some additional changes and then commit them. You don't want to lose them. And that's what those options allow you to decide what to do with your local files. Not with your local Git, but with your working directory, with your local files. And there is this another area that we haven't discussed yet, this index or staging area, which simply means which files, which changes would be committed during the next commit. And we skipped this because usually you just want to commit all the changes. So let's ignore it and let's move on with those options with only 2. And if you are curious, the the other option, it decides what to do with this staging area. But let's ignore this. So again, let's go back to our commit to which we want to go back. And let's use reset. And now let's discuss those options. So hard option, this one, it will undo the changes in your local files, in your working directory, so here, and in the Git. So it would point here. So you would lose all the changes. Every change you made, it will disappear, which might be fine if you want to have a clean environment again. But what if you would like to only update the branch, but you would like to keep your files with the changes? That's what mixed option does. It keeps your working tree untouched, but it resets index and branch. Soft version, well, it would keep changes in your working directory and in this staging area. Let's ignore it for now. All right, so we've got those two options. So let's start with hard. And hard, it will undo changes from your local files and from Git. So let's do this. Yes, please reset it. And what it did is that, first of all, our branch points to this commit. So those two additional commits that were previously visible in the history, they are gone. Secondly, if we take a look at the file, we can see only the first change in the file, because the other two were removed, because we used this hard option. All right, cool. So let's actually test the other option, mixed. And let's do this in the code.txt file, so just to work on a different file from time to time. So change A. Let me save it. Let's commit this. Yes, please. Let's have a change B. Let me save it. Let me commit this. Yes, please. And let's have a change C. Let's save the file. And let's commit this. All right. So we made 3 commits in our file called code.txt. Those 3 commits. And now let's say that again, you would like to go back with the Git history to this commit, but actually we would like to keep the changes in our code.txt file. So we don't want to lose those changes from the file, but we would like to make sure that they are not yet committed to the repo. And that's exactly what the mixed option would do. So let me right click on the commit to which we want to go back in time to change A. Let's reset the current branch to this commit. And let's use this mixed option. And hopefully it will work just fine. And let's see what it did. Again, our branch, feature undoing stuff, points to this commit to change A. So those change B and change C commits are gone from the history, but our file code.txt, it contains those changes. And moreover, they are detected by Git that they are new compared to the previous state. So if I would like to make another change, let's say change D here, let me save this. Change D. And actually, let me compare the state. We can see that this time I would commit a change that would contain B, C, and D. So let's commit this. Yes, please. and take a look at the history. Now, our branch is on this commit that contains those B, C, and D changes, right? And we were able to do this so easily because our local file in our working directory was not reset. We kept all the changes, and it allowed us to commit those changes. So that's a very nice possibility to be able to decide what we want to achieve with the reset. All right, and all of this stuff works nicely when we haven't pushed our changes to the remote repo. All the time we were working on our local Git repository. So let's actually publish our branch, which creates the branch in the remote repo and pushes all the changes, right? And now it changes the situation a bit, because right now all those changes are visible, are available not only in our local Git, but also in the remote one, which means that our colleagues might have already pulled those changes. And in such cases, rewriting history, and that's what reset does, might cause some issues, especially if you're not communicating this with your colleagues. So general advice is that if you already post your changes to the remote repo, then watch out with Git reset option, because it might cause some issues. So what to do in such case? Well, we still have Git revert option available, the one that we used previously, that creates this automatic commit. So again, let's do this on this code.txt file, scenario, I don't know, 4 maybe. Let me save the file. Let me add the commit and let me push it to the repo, to the remote repo, right? So I'm doing two things at the same time. I'm committed the change locally, and then I'm pushing it to the remote repo. And we can see this scenario 4 commit available. It is already in the remote repo. If we click on the show remote branches, we can see that origin branch of our undoing stuff points to the same commit, right? And let's say that we would like to undo the stuff that we did in this commit. A reset, a bit risky. A revert, still safe, because it just creates a new commit with negated changes. So let's revert it. Yes, please. Again, we've got this commit that we can push to the repo. So let's push them. And it's done, right? So we pushed yet another commit to the remote repo that reverted this scenario 4 changes. And if our colleagues pulled those changes to their versions of the repositories, everything will be fine, because it's just yet another commit. Of course, we might have merge conflicts, but that's not related to this particular scenario. That's how Git works in distributed environment. All right, and there's one more scenario. So let's say that you started working with those revert or reset options and you messed it up. You messed it up so badly that it is really difficult for you to recover, or maybe it takes too much time and you just want to start over. And that's what Git allows us to do, right? And again, let's say that all those commits, well, we tried to undo some stuff and now it's too difficult. We would like to start over from this commit. And maybe we don't care that we have to work still in our current branch. Now it is fine for us to create a new branch from this commit and just work in this branch. it would be the simplest scenario, right? And yeah, we can do this. And I think I showed it to you in the previous episode. So let's right click on it. And what we could do would be to create a branch, feature cleanup, and let's check it out. And there you go. And right now we are in this point in time and we are working on this particular branch. So all those changes are not available for us. And sometimes that might be the best way to get rid of those ugly attempts of cleaning up your mistakes, provided that you are fine with working in a separate branch. If not, then you have to use either revert or reset. Alright, so let me summarize this. Because Git tracks every commit, it has this history available, it is possible to go back in time and undo the stuff that you did. And depending on a case, you may do this in different ways. Starting from the simplest scenario, you just discard the changes before you even commit them to the repo. But if you already committed the changes to the repo, to the local one, without pushing them, you can either revert them manually by creating yet another commit, which is fine in simple cases, but usually not recommended as it is error prone. Or you could use this git revert option that automatically creates a new commit that undoes changes from the selected commit. Super cool. Or you could use a git reset option that changes the commit to which your branch points to. And when using git reset, you have a choice of deciding what to do with your files, with the changes that live in your working directory on your local disk. You may undo them as well, so all the changes would be lost, or you can leave them. You can keep them and commit them during the next commit operation. It's up to you which operation or which scenario is better for you. But anyway, undoing stuff is possible. And that's it for today. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Take care.